We're looking on Daf Nun Aleph Amid Beis, and we're counting up approximately 8 lines up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up from the bottom. Now, in order to appreciate this, we'll take a look at the Mishnah. And this Mishnah in Perek Chalil is going through all the rituals that took place during the Simchas Beis HaShoeva in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Mishnah starts on Daf Nun Aleph Amid Aleph, and it continues on, and it speaks about Misha Lo Ra, Simchas Beis HaShoeva Lo Ra, Simcha B'Yamav. And then it goes on to say that B'motzai Yontif HaRishon Shel Chag Yardu Li'ezras Noshim U'Mesaknin Sham Tikun Gadol. So what we're going to focus on now is this concept of a Tikun Gadol. What's it all about? Now keep in mind that the Simchas Beis HaShoeva is going to take place in the Ezras Noshim. Now the Ezras Noshim is near the Ezras Kohanim, and it's also near the She'iva, the Chatzer, where they did the She'iva, and they took the Mayim, the water, for the Nisach HaMayim. Now, between the Ezras Noshim and the Azara, the main Azara, was apparently a staircase, I guess you'd call it, of 15 steps. So the Gemara says, "My Tikun Gadol." We're back down to the bottom of Nun Aleph on base. Omer Rabbi Lazar, Osa ke'osa sheshadinu, and he quotes a Mishnah Midos. Chalaka Hoisa Barishona. And it seems like he's talking about the Bayis Rishon. And there was a separation during Bayis Rishon between the Ezras Noshim and the Kodesh. And he says it was Halakha. What does that mean by Halakha? He just tells you that it was a smooth wall. Hikifua Gizustra. Gizustra is something that juts out from a wall. And Iskinu Shiyu Noshim Yoshvos Milamalo, the women should be sitting on the balcony, up on top, Vanoshim Milamata. Rashi says, the third of the wide lines, Chalaka Haisas, Ezras Nashim Rishona, Lohaya Zizim Yotzim and Akos. So initially it was a smooth wall without any balconies. But Hikifua Guz Gusra. They made a takana and they added balconies. Zizim Bekoslan. Voltim and Akosel Spiv Spivakol. Shona Mesadrim Shom Gustros Levachit. I don't know what the next word is. Levasim Shekorin blank. So I guess he probably means like flat areas with a gate or so that the women could stand on the balcony. Kadeshiyu Nashim Omdot Shav Simpas Beisaver Roos, they could see what was going on. The Zel Tikin Godel Tani, the Masnisin Shemasakni Bechol Shan. Tanarabana, and we learned in the Brisa, Rishona Yunashim Mi Bifnim, Vanashim Mi Bachutz. It means that initially the women would watch the Simchas Beis from the inside, and the men were on the outside. But nevertheless, it caused Kalus Rosh. There was mingle. Now, this reminds me of a Gemara at the end of Kiddushin that there's a yichud problem in a case where there are women on the inner chamber and men on the outer chamber, because inevitably the men go into the inner chamber and then they mingle with the women. So now up to the second stage, and the women are on the outside, the men are on the inside. And if the men are on the inside, they'll stay on the inside, and there won't be intermingling. And the men would go out into the women's section. And now we get to the final stage. And this, by the way, is the source for the custom in many old shuls, especially back in Europe. You've seen it. You know, if you visit, I don't know how many shuls the Nazis left over after the war, but like, for example, in Prague, you know, the Nazis, they left a museum of the lost people. So there are 5 shuls in Prague that are old shuls. One of them is called the Kloy Shul. And when you go into the Kloy Shul, they don't let you go up, but there's a balcony, and that's where the women sat. Hechi Ovid Hochi, the Gemara objects, why? Vaksiv, we have a pasuk in Divrei Yomim that we don't change anything in the Beis HaMikdash. We have to do it exactly the way it was given to David HaMelech by the Nevi'im of that time, Gad and Nasan, and Akol B'Ksav Miyad Hashem Alayis Kil. So what was the heter to make this change in the structure of the Mikdash, allowing for balconies in what used to be a chalaka, kosel chalaka? Omar Rav, Kra Ashkechu V'Darish. Okay, Rashi says, Shetzarach Lahavdil, that we have to separate the men from the women. Here we look on Daf Nun Beis. And the pasuk says, this is in Zechariah Novi, V'Savdah ha'aretz mishpachos, levad mishpachas beis David, levad u'l'nesheyev levad. So we're talking about a hesped. We're talking about the burial of the dead. And yet, the pasuk insists that the wives sat by themselves and the men by themselves. Amru, halo dvarim kal v'chomer, mali osid lavo. And apparently this nevuah of Zechariah is foreseeing the end of days after Milchemes Gog u'Magog, and at that point, there are going to be eulogies, and Rashi says, "V'softa the word v'zulav she used to do al Mashiach ben Yosef." Right, there'll be 2 Mashiachim. There'll be a Mashiach ben Yosef and then ben David. And after the death of Mashiach ben Yosef, Shenereg Milchemes Gog u'Magog, they'll have this massive eulogy. Uksiv mishpachas beis David levad u'neshem levad. Afilu b'shas hatzar, you would think that there's no room for frivolity during a moment of sorrow. Nevertheless, Torah lahavdil anoshim minoshim. So Oskim behesped, even when they're involved in a eulogy, and you would say, Ein Yetzer Hara Sholik Bahem, Omer Torah Noshim Levad V'Noshim Levad, Achshav Shasukim B'Simcha, during the celebration of Simchas Beis HaShoeva, Yetzer Hara Sholik Bahem is alachas kama v'kama. How much more so is it necessary to separate the men and the women? He writes here in the footnote, since there's a scriptural mandate for this balcony to separate the sexes, it is tantamount to having been contained in the original prophetic instructions to David, and cannot be considered a deviation from that plan. Highest peda maya vidity. Kligi be Rabbi Dosov Rabbon. Chan Omer al Mashiach and Yosef Shenerag. That's what we saw in Rashi. Chan Omer al Yetzer Hara Shenerag. Very interesting that we will have a eulogy for the Yetzer Hara, but that's only because the Yetzer Hara is really working on our behalf. I mean, obviously challenging us. That's what the pasuk means. There in Zechariah, in Perkid Beis, Bibitu Eli, Es Asher Dakaru, Esaftu Alav Kemiskar Al Hayachid. They will look towards me, the one they have stabbed. They will mourn over him as one mourns over an only child. So obviously, in the death of Mashiach ben Yosef, there's going to be a major anguish. Maybe we should celebrate that there's no longer Yetzer Hara. We'll all be able to easily worship Hashem. Is Amai Bachu? Why are they crying at a eulogy? Kidrei Shlok, Kidrei Rabbi Yehuda. Li Asid Lavo, says Rabbi Yehuda. This is a drasha. Mevio HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yetzer Hara v'Shochto b'fnei tzadikim b'fnei Rishonim. Very famous Haggadah. You know, the Rishonim are going to say, oh no, look at the power of the Yetzer Hara. And the tzadikim are going to say, look what we overpower. Tzadikim nidmelem kechar gavoa. We were able to overwhelm a gigantic char. And this is great. This is a fabulous achievement on our part. They're going to be very upset because they'll see the Yetzer Hara in its true presentation as a chut hasayra, and all you have to do is rip it up. Halolu bochim, halolu bochim. Tzadikim bochim heich yacholnu lichbosh har gavoz kazeh. Now, why is that a reason for crime? Apparently, they will be brought to tears by the memory of their lifelong struggle with the evil inclination. Alternatively, they will cry at the loss of the opportunity to earn further reward for overpowering the evil inclination. We're going to be punished because we couldn't just snap this strand of hair. And God too joins them in the state of amazement. Shenemar, again a pasuk in Zechariah. Ko amar Hashem tzvakos, ki palei be'enai sheiris ha'am hazeh, vayomim hahem gam be'enai yipol. That when the people of Israel will be wondering about something, I also will wonder with them. Amar av asi Yetzer Hara b'tchila doma l'chut shel bufya. At the beginning, it looks like a spider's thread. Now, is that that's difficult to resist, he says. Just see if Rashi says anything here. No. So again, at the very beginning, it's very challenging, very difficult to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Ulbasof domer kavosos hagol. Rashi says Ulbasof mishadam Nimshach Acharov Ma'at Miskaber V'holech Bo. Sounds to me that Rashi is learning it's getting even more challenging. Did you get that impression from Rashi? Once a person becomes accustomed to commit sin, he discovers that he is addicted to it, as extremely difficult to resist the temptation.
It's more extreme.
So this then is Rabbi Asi's metaphor. Initially, the evil inclination pulls one to sin with a spider's thread, which is weak and easily broken. Once the person becomes addicted to sin, then forget it. Then it's like hard rope. Shenemar, and now he quotes Yeshayahu Navi, Hoy Moshchei Avon V'chavle Yashov V'chavos Hagalah Chata'a. Woe unto those who draw iniquity with cords of nothingness and sin as a cart rope. And now it's very strange. He started the pasuk with something that's nothing, words of nothingness, like a spider web. But he finishes with the avos hagol, which we said were very tough, and it's so challenging to overcome them. That's because we become addicted to sin. Ton Rabbanon, Moshiach ben David, Sha'asid li galos b'mei Rebbeinu Omer lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu sha'al mimenu davar v'etein lecha. You have one request. Shenemar, where is this in Tehillim? Asapra el chok, ani ayom yiliditicha sha'al mimeni v'etna goyim nachlos. I have begotten you on this day. Ask of me, and I will give nations for your inheritance. Kevin Shara Mashiach ben Yosef Shenerag Omer Lefanov. Mashiach ben David says, "Ibona Shalom, Eini Mevakish Michal Chayim." I've seen my predecessor that he was killed. Please grant me life. That's all I'm asking for. Omer Lo, God responds, Chaim, Ad Shalo Amarti, Kvar Hisnabe Olecha David Avicha. He says to Mashiach that David has already prophesied about Melech HaMashiach, that'll come from his zera. And therefore, David says, I've already prayed that your life will be granted. Shenemar Chaim Shal Mimcha Nasato Lo. You asked for life, and God granted you life. You wonder if there's what is the deeper meaning of this drasha? But one thing seems clear to me, that the Mashiach ben David is saying, look, I'm not sure what great things you're going to bestow upon me, but one thing I beg you for is just that I survive. I'm looking behind me at the Mashiach ben Yosef, and I see that my life is in danger. His life was taken away. So before I can even ask for more sophisticated requests, let me live, protect me. Let me just take a look. I have the Masechet here. Curious to see if he adds anything here. He says, "Bikevan shenemar sha'al mimeni vetna goyim nachloso los pari shesholken shiu goyim nachloso umotzinu od papasuk chayim sha'ol mimcha she'esnabe David sha'osid HaMashiach levakesh chayim al kein darshu shemitchilo yivakesh chayim v'al kein al kach Yoshiv lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu she'al bakashas hachayim kfar esnabe David aviv." Saying the following, that the Mashiach ben David is going to say, well, I better ask for life. But then he's wasting his opportunity because he could ask for goyim nachlos. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu already grants David's wish of Chaim, and therefore Mashiach ben David has no need to ask for Chaim. He's already been granted Chaim through the genetic generations. So you can ask for more, I guess, sophisticated requests in terms of the goyim. Okay. Darash, Rabbi Avira, Vitem Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Shiva Shemos Yeshlo Yetzara. HaKadosh Baruch Hu called Karo Ra. Never ki Yetzer Lev Ha'adam Ra Mina Ura. Right, that was after the Mamre. Moshe Kro Orel. Shenemar Umaltem Es Orlas Levavchem. Now it says Levavchem from the Lashon Lev, that's the shorish of the word, and Levav. So we repeat the same letter twice, the vase. And the Gemara is going to say that the pasuk Maltem es Orlas Levavchem indicates that you have a heart and another heart, so to speak. And there's a confrontation here, pulling in each direction between good and evil. So that's the plural of the word levavchem. And I guess umaltem indicates that you have to align yourself with that lave and free yourself from the lave that might lead you astray towards evil. David Karo Tome. Shenemar Lev Tahar Roli Elokim. He was asking for a new heart, a pure heart, without any Yetzer Hara. Michlal De'ika Tome. The opposite of the word tar is Tome. And David HaMelech was praying that he should have a tar, a Lev Tahar. He says, if your enemy, the evil inclination, is hungry and desirous of sin, give him lechem, which the Gemara takes to mean involvement in the study of Torah. Shlomo Kro Sone, he's your enemy. And this apparently is Mishle. Imra'ev sonacha achileu lechem vimtsome hashkeu mayim ki gecholim atachote al rosho b'Hashem yishalim lo. If your enemy is hungry, feed him bread. If he's thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will be heaping coals on his head, and Hashem will reward you. So why is giving bread and water considered like heaping coals on his head? So again, as we said before, if your evil inclination is hungry, give him lechem. And what's lechem in this context? Involvement in Torah study. And the word lechem here can be read as lacham, which is the shoresh root of the word milchama, of a battle. So in the study of Torah, we have what's called a battle, a give and take. And water is also Torah. Evi called Samilch L'mayim. Ein Mayim El Torah. Now it says here, V'Hashem Yishalim Loch. Al Tikri Yishalim Loch, El Yashlimenu Loch. So here in the English, he translates Yashlimenu as passive. So we read it as Hashem Yishalim Loch, he'll be rewarding you. But no, that's not what it means. It means Hashem will pacify him, not you, but the evil inclination. And that's for you. Yeshayo Karo Michshel. He is a stumbling block. Shenemar. And now we're quoting a pasuk in Yeshayahu Hanavi. Solu paru derech. Arimu michshol miderech ami. So what exactly is the new interpretation of Arimu michshol miderech ami? He says here that we should look in Rashi. Yashlumu l'cha sheyehei shalem yitzrecha imcha v'yoavecha v'al yasiacha lachto la'avi min ha'ol. That somehow you pacify the Yetzer Hara by learning Torah, and he will desist from trying to trip you up, to violate the Torah. Yechezkel Karo Evan, also a barrier, some sort of a stumbling block. Shenemar vasirosi es leiv ha'evan mipsarchem and asati lechem leiv basar. I'll remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. This also, says Marsha, is the dual nature of man's heart. The heart of stone represents the evil inclination. The heart of flesh represents the good inclination. And the metaphor of a heart of stone is meant to emphasize that it is the lethargy of man's animal nature that makes him unresponsive to spiritual challenges. So I guess that's what Ezer Kenegdo is all about, right? Your wife is supposed to Make
Right.
sure that you respond to all the challenges.
Right.
She's the mashkiach, right? Anyway, Yoel Kro Tzfoni. Tzfoni is Miloshin Tzafun, the hidden one. Shenemar, in Yoel, Be'es HaTzfoni Archik Me'alechem. Now, why is the evil inclination called the hidden one? Rashi says, Safun b'libo shel ha'adam. He's concealed in the recesses of man's heart. He presents himself as a friend, convincing a person that what he desires is actually right and proper, when in fact it is just the opposite. So this is derived from the pasuk that's Tzfoni Archik Me'alechem. And the end of the pasuk is V'idachtiv el Eretz Tzia Ushmama Es Panav el Hayam Hakadmoni V'Sofo el Hayam Acharom V'Ola V'Basho V'Salet Tzachanosom Ki Higdil Lastos. Tanrabanon v'satzfoni archik me'alechem ze yetzer hara shetzafun v'omed b'libo shel adam. Idachtiv el eretz tzia u'shmama l'makom she'ein b'nei adam mitzuyim lizgaros bahen. He translates this Garos as to incite them. Es panav. Again, this is all that same pasuk. So before El Hayom Kadmoni. Benosan Eino b'Migdash Rishon b'Chriva. Now, why is the Migdash Rishon called Yam HaKadmoni? I guess because it's the first. And just as all rivers flow into the sea, all Jews streamed to the temple, to the Migdash Rishon. Harag Talmidei Chachamim Shebo. Now, I don't know if Harag means literally he killed them, or maybe it means he tripped them up spiritually. V'sofa l'yom ha'achron, and his end to the last sea. Shenosan Einov b'Migdash Sheni b'Chriva. So he laid his eyes on the second temple, destroyed it. Once again, Talmidei Chacham were killed. V'ola b'asho, basal tzachanoso, his foul odor will rise and his stench will rise. Sheminiach umos ha'olam u'mizgara b'sonem shel Yisrael. The stench comes from, I guess, is trying to trip up Klal Yisrael, where he leaves the nations of the world and incites the enemies of Israel to sin. When it says the enemies of Israel, that's Lashon Saginor for Klal Yisrael. Now, the last pasuk here is Ki Higdil Lasos, Amar Abaye, v'Talmidei Chacham Yosem Mikulam. He attacks and tries to trip up Talmidei Chacham more than anyone else. Ki had Abaye, Shamei Lalhu Gavra, Tika Omar, Lahi Isasa Naktim B'Nezel B'Urch. So Abaye overheard a man say to a woman, let's go for a walk. And you know what could happen? So this is what Abaye heard, that the man said to the woman, let's go up early, no one's awake, and we'll go out on a shpatzir. Amar Abaye said, Ezel Afreshinu Meisur. Ozil Basrayut Tlosa Parsi, the Agma, Kavi Parshi Ma'adali. So it sounds like they got to a place and they took leave of one another, which means they did not commit any sort of an avera. Wait a second. Maybe I jumped the gun here. It says that the man and the woman came from different cities. Their path diverged at this crossroads. Yeah, they took leave of them. This one went to that city and this one to the other. Shab'inu de ka'amre, he heard them saying to each other, Orchin rechika. Vitzavsin besima. Amrabai iman desonili hava. Lo avimotzi leukmei nafshe. Clear what's going on. Let me just read the Sifta. He says, Im hayasoni dahainu abai atzmo. He's talking about himself, Abai. Mandesonili is a euphemism for himself. If it was me, there's no way I could overcome the temptation for passion to sin. So Azal Abai, Holach Abai, Tola Nafshe Vibura Dasha. Nishan al Briach Adeles. He's like leaning on the door, the knob of the door. Like someone who's really upset with him. Umitztayr. Says Vitztayr al Sha'osa the Pashut, what we call a Pashut a Yid, Sholet B'Yitzro, more than I would have been able to Sholet B'Yitzro. Asa Hu Saba, some elderly statesman came by. Tonalani taught him, don't get down on it, because the greater you are, the greater is the Yetzer. And this is how he was consoled by that, that this Pasha the Yid is not greater than him, but that he has less of a Yetzer than he does. And from the words of that Zaken, Abai derived the conclusion that Talmidei Chacham is Kara Yetzahar Yoser Bikulon, as even greater a Yetzahar. Rav Yitzchak Yitzchak Shal Adam Miskavrol B'Chol Yom. Yetzahar gets stronger and stronger day by day. Shenever, it says with regard to Daramabul. And if you read the beginning of the pasuk, which is not printed here, Ki Rabba Roas Ha'anam Ba'artz Kol Yetzer Machshavos Libo Rak Kol Hayom. It would seem that Kol Hayom Who Mosif Ra'ah.